Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Kazekage's Friend by Monarch Account. Series Chapter 1 The Visit. One of the things about traveling with Jiraiya is that while he uses a lot of his Orikujutsu, it is much more about the sexy new teen with clouds around her than it is Naruto but a girl. Having nothing to do did bring back both the acknowledgement that there was much more of his jutsu that makes pervs bleed, and that Naruto misses being a girl, and that nude teen form is rarely a girl more than it is a prop. Again, Naruto is doing much of nothing and can't even prank around to pass the time, because when he tried, he and Jiraiya had to run away pretty fast or pay a large sum, making Gamachan all empty and lumpy yet again, and receive only a angry mad and a lecture he couldn't escape after. So that was no fun. And Jiraiya, while very stupid and weird in a lot of ways, was also very smart and wouldn't fall for any of Naruto's pranks. So he stopped trying. This brings them back to the fact that Naruto is bored out of his mind, and the only highlight being him answering Gaara's semi-weekly letters. Gaara told him a lot about his experiences being a Kazekage, how a lot of people still hated him or were afraid of him, but he was trying his best, for the village anyway, and now it was trying to connect with his siblings. And sometimes he asked silly things like, how was the taste of ice cream, and how does one know their favorite food? Or what was having fun like, and what Naruto did when he wanted to have fun. Naruto hadn't had the answer for all that Gaara wanted to know, or was good with words and being formal and proper like Gaara's letters were, but he tried his best to answer anyway. Naruto's answers tended to go more abstract around terminology and ideas, and closer to what he could see in a literal sense, which was different from the more poetry pessimism and the blunt way that Gaara saw things. Once, Naruto and Gaara ended their whole debate for a couple of letters about if glitter bombs or sand bombs were the worst to clean after on neutral ground. Outside the land of wind, which sand was already constant, and the people don't bother to clean because it would just not work. At least Naruto was pretty sure that was the topic of the discussion. Gaara had entered in some convoluted flowery tangent. That was a new word that Jiraiya taught Naruto about the lasting effects / proofs of the failing of the enemy, and how one can't escape their past because the evidence would just not go away because it isn't happening anymore. Naruto pointed out that glitter would have more swoosh for just how obnoxious it was, that memory being sparkly plastic. Gaara conceded to his point. Gaara also asked how Naruto was doing, bored mostly, and didn't comment on his training. Gaara knew he wasn't in Konoha a whole lot, because that much Naruto tells him, but Jiraiya wouldn't allow him to say anything more specific about where he was, or what he was learning, or doing most days. Instead, Gaara prompts Naruto to talk about what he was feeling, feelings in general being a big thing for Gaara, and if he ate something good or bad. In this letter, Gaara asked about dreams. Actually, he asked about sleeping, how it was to fall asleep. Did something happen? Does he remember what? How was it waking up? It was kinda weird, like Gaara had never slept before. So Naruto decides to ask Jiraiya, or at least chase him around the city they are in, finding the probable bar or something similar that he was in, a task which took all day, mind you. "Hey, Erisenen!" My friend sends me a letter, and you know he just asks me some things, and sometimes it's weird, but this time it was extra weird, and I think it's important, and I need you to check it. Believe it! Naruto bellows when he sees the man. Ah, Naruto-kun, I'm a little busy right now. Why don't you see if there's some fence around for you to paint? Maybe someone's willing to pay you for that. Jiraiya laughs, like he wasn't the reason that Naruto's money constantly went low. The ass. But it's important. I think we should help him. Naruto insists, feeling his eyes squinting as his frustration builds up. It's not like we do anything cool. We just walk around while you spy on girls' bathrooms for your error books. Naruto smiles in satisfaction as a lady that was wrapped around Jiraiya's arms huffs at him and looks very close to slapping his face before just walking herself away from his seat. Jiraiya looks disheartened at that and pouts at Naruto. I'm gathering very important information, he affirms in a serious voice, that Naruto would fall if he wasn't used to at this point with how lame Jiraiya is, and what kind of important information he collects. That's more important, believe it, Naruto repeats, crossing his arms. They both stare at each other before Jiraiya sighs heavily and makes a show of grunting while he gets up. Alright. Jeez. Naruto waits, holding onto his expression while Erosenin pays for his drinks and makes another show of wobbling around and dragging his way back to the inn. What's this even about? I told you, my friend has a weird question and I think it's important, you know? My friend Gaara? Naruto pointedly gestures at his stomach if his name was not enough to make Jiraiya pay attention. There are a lot of times that he didn't after all, once the letters turned routine. This in fact works, because his steps are surer and faster, and he just murmurs something about of course it is, before going silent again until they were safe inside the house and a bunch of wards were up. Naruto, what I told you about talking about it openly, or your friend for that matter. You weren't listening, but it's important. I get that, but it's dangerous, you know. There are people after you, and a recently named Kage is plenty talked about even around civilian villages. He urges on. What is it then? You only told me that you think it's important, but never told what. Because you weren't paying attention, Naruto huffs. I don't know. He asked a lot about dreams and sleep, I guess. It sounded like he never did, which is weird, even for Gaara. 'Cause I know some people don't dream, but I've never heard of nobody not sleeping. Anybody, Jiraiya corrects absentmindedly. It must be about his seal then, Jiraiya murmurs, before sitting and laying down on his futon. Naruto waits. What? That's it? You figured out what was wrong with mine, so you must know something about seals, right? You could help him, Naruto insists, but it doesn't seem to work. Jiraiya grunts something about boring political stuff, but Naruto is determined to help now that he knew that he could, so he pressed on. Gaara is my friend and the Kazekage. He would let us pass. And that would be a diplomatic mission, A rank one at least. You're not ready for that. Jiraiya had a world map open on the floor of their camp, murmuring for at least an hour now if they should go north or south instead of going to the traditional route. I don't get why we just can't go in a straight line, Naruto moans, falling on his back on the grass around them. It was very green and soft, but slightly damp and muddy. They have been on a damp, muddy path for ages right now, just going east, or was it west? To the left. Jiraiya before was walking them in a direction of the coast, which was like the opposite side of the land of wind. So during the week, since Naruto makes Jiraiya's cave and helps Gaara, They had to walk all the way back, maybe even passing Konoha all over again, depending on if they would go north or south. Now they were in the south of the Land of Fire. South was rainy a lot of the time, and then warm and always humid. The beach Jiraiya wanted to go before was a tourist one, with sand and ladies in bikinis. Luckily, it was this information that finally gave Naruto an answer about how to convince Jiraiya, with a bonus coming out of it. Sensei! The Oroku no Jutsu teen version had a bikini this time instead of clouds, and Naruto made sure to press his breast against the Ero Sennin's arms. If you let us go to Suna to help my friend, I'll spend the whole time as a girl. I'm very good at that. It'll be no problem. Naruto made his voice less high, quieter, and breathier. Just allow us to go. Jiraiya's nose was bleeding as he agreed and started to write Tsunade Oba-san. Naruto waited for just enough for the letter to be sent to Tsunade, then let go of the big best form to his usual, more familiar Naruto but a girl form. Jiraiya was devastated, and Naruto couldn't be prouder of himself. Still, there was another week of waiting before Tsunade had to send a letter to Gaara first, and then Gaara sends another letter to her so that Naruto and Jiraiya could go to Suna. Like Naruto himself couldn't have just asked Gaara directly. It was stupid. Jiraiya sighed something about it being policy and why Naruto wasn't ready for diplomatic missions like that. Yada yada. It worked, and Jiraiya kept whining about Naruto not having breasts anymore, which he had. They were just very tiny and not the big heavy things the cloud version had, thank you. Travelling to Suna after receiving the confirmation took a whole week. Crossing fire in an already humid season to the even damp and rainy place directly to an extremely dry one was weird. And then, once in wind, running in the sand was an exercise by itself. Jiraiya's vengeance on Naruto tricking him was making him spend a whole day using chakra control to run up and down sand dunes, or no chakra control at all, losing feet and falling or tumbling over and over again. Finding resources was also hard, and there were a lot fewer villages on the way to Suna. His jacket was long ago kept on his backpack, waist, or over his head. His black t-shirt was not all that breezy or protected him from the punishing sun. By the end of the day, he often goes to sleep with red rashes all over and is barely able to move. So when the walls of Sunagakure that they had been staring at for the whole day finally cast a shadow over him, he couldn't be happier. Being received by Gaara and his sister also helped a lot. Naruto runs, stopping just in front of his friends, smiling wide, barely containing himself in his skin. Gaara startles and sways back a little, but he is also smiling, in a sweet, small way, but there and true. And that's what's important, really. Naruto kinda wants to hug him, but maybe he should hold out his hand instead. Or maybe bend? Gaara is the Kazekage after all, and that would be the respectful thing to do, right? But Naruto is quite too close to that right now. Naruto-kun, it is nice to see you again, Gaara says, without any of that nasty harshness or hatred in his voice like back in Konoha. It was a very nice and soft voice that Naruto had no idea what to do about, but it made him really warm and happy, so he allowed his smile to grow even wider in response. "It's nice to see you," he exclaims, and oh no, that was too loud, wasn't it? Gaara didn't seem to mind, even though his sister looked like she did for them both. Jiraiya coughed behind them, and Naruto jumped a little, giving a little space between himself and his friend to introduce Gaara to the Ero Sennin. He is the one I talked about. He knows a lot about steals, so he should be able to help you. Then you can write to me about what you dream about as well. Or if you dream at all. Sometimes I don't, but I heard some people don't do it at all, which is weird. But like, you're still sleeping even if you don't dream, and that's what's important, believe it. Naruto explained while the ball of his feet went up and down. It's just that he was really happy seeing Gaara again, and talking to him face to face instead of his boring letters. Naruto was pretty sure he talked about all of this before, but it doesn't matter. Important things should be said again and again. At least Iruka-sensei was always repeating himself about stuff when it was important. Not that Naruto paid any attention anyways, so it's fine. Maybe we should talk about this in a more private place, Jiraiya suggests, chuckling a little. Kazekage-san, it is nice to meet you. Jiraiya did a bow, with his huge hand on top of Naruto's hair, making him bow as well. I'm sorry about this. Naruto is not used to customs of respect or diplomacy. He's just very excited to see his friend. No problem, Gaara assured, still looking at Naruto. Come inside, I will show you around. Naruto fled Jiraiya's hold, jumping upright again, and runs to walk beside Gaara, going back to talk about the buildings which were so round. There aren't like no corners anywhere, and there's sand anywhere, and no trees or bushes, which is super weird, but there weren't any roofs, which Gaara explained was because the winds and sandstorms, which made sense. Konoha did get pretty windy sometimes, and the roofs always were the first to go, he guessed. But there was such a lack of colour too, which didn't seem as logical as the roofs or lack of trees, or as cool as everything is round. And Gaara did say that he didn't think about that, but it really had no proper reason for lack of colour, and he would see about that. And that meant that Naruto's constant talk was being listened to, and Gaara was genuinely considering what he was talking, and that makes Naruto feel all warm and weird again. Because really, Gaara always answers every topic that Naruto talks about in his letters, with no fault, but is completely different in person, and people never really listened to Naruto or think what he had to talk worthy of genuine consideration. Mostly, sometimes about serious stuff he made them do, and while the lack of colour was serious stuff, it wasn't serious stuff. Gaara sounded genuinely sad he couldn't show them more of Sunagakure, given it was getting dark, but once inside the Kazekage's palace, and they met Gaara's brother, Tamare got out to get them food, and they all had to sit and wait, and there wasn't much more Naruto could point out. They were in a way too big room for 4 people. There were no corner walls, and the ceiling was high. Gaara was sitting in the far back of the room in a small pedestal place, with a wide low table different from the other low tables distributed by the sides. There was tapestry behind Gaara, framing the platform as well as archways. It was very loud and rich, since Naruto was pretty sure it was made of gold or something like that, which brought back to being outplaced and weird considering the rest of the village didn't look like they had a lot of riches in that same way. Gaara looked very uncomfortable sitting in there. Naruto and Jiraiya took place on the table by the left of Gaara, leaving Kankuro by the right on the other side of the room, and there was just way too much space everywhere, and too little people to be anything but awkward. At least the lack of colour wasn't as prevalent, and there were so many rugs and fabric details everywhere. Naruto supposed this was where the place of official encounters and diplomatic dinners, and he thought that there should be people around the place to make it look less empty. But, well, there was the eyes. Oh, so similar, always afraid and hating. Gaara didn't seem to have any assistants or bodyguards, masked or otherwise, like Kazekage or Obasan had. But really, the eyes were everywhere when they were walking in Suna before, or in who they passed on the palace. And maybe Naruto wouldn't trust much about people who had eyes like that either. It was. Naruto didn't want to think about it much, because, well, he was always thought if he was the Hokage, he wouldn't be receiving the eyes. At least not that way, not as much, not for everybody, but Gaara... Anyway, the point is, he didn't have much to talk about now that they stopped, and it was getting awkward. And Naruto hated awkwardness. He didn't do awkward. He tried not, at least. It didn't always work because, well, people never like much when Naruto talks or is loud or moves around or just is there. Because that is not true here. Because Gaara is Gaara. And Gaara heard when Naruto talked and talked back to him and didn't mind when Naruto gets too close or talk too fast or too loudly. But he really didn't know what to talk, and Eresenin had been wincing a lot, so he probably wasn't any help in here too. Something about respect, politeness and diplomacy and all that boring stuff. Probably. When Jiraiya started to wince that way, it mostly ended up being about that. But Gaara is his friend. But is it not even like how Naruto is Sakura-chan's friend? When she got all wincy and mad at him, Gaara didn't care about that, so why should Naruto force himself to talk all snobby and weird? Also, they were kids. Naruto was pretty sure he was a little older than Gaara even, so really the respect stuff cancels itself out. It's fine. Weren't you a boy before? Kankuro snaps. Gaara's brother kind of also had that eye, but he kept shifting between Gaara back to looking weird to Naruto or glancing unsure to Eresenin all the time, and had that face people get when they find Naruto annoying. Naruto wasn't expecting him to say anything. He was expecting that he would scoff and stalk out the moment Temari got back, and that would be that. But more than that, he wasn't expecting him to even notice that Naruto wasn't a boy right now. People never did, and he was pretty much sitting in silence, glaring. His glare was weirdly like Gaara's glare from before in Konoha, which is kind of funny, but mostly weird, and Naruto really didn't expect that he would notice. People don't notice stuff, not when it's Naruto. And he never had to explain himself, and oh, now he is not only feeling the awkward air, but feeling himself awkward and weird. Not the nice weird, but I did something wrong, and people will not say what it is, only to be mad at me weird. He tries starting. Is a jutsu? Naruto exclaims, forcing himself to laugh and smile wide. Yeah, it's a jutsu, and a training jutsu, part of the training, kind of like a henge, but not exactly. I'm not very good at henge. This is like shadow henge. No, that doesn't sound right. Which is unfair. He thinks he does a very good job of naming things, and he had really good name for the jutsu already. But, well, he couldn't say Oroku no Jutsu right now, could he? And would it be weird? Especially because he said it was a training thing. And using shadow in front to say it is more than a simple henge, like a shadow clone was more than a simple clone, didn't exactly work as well. It's something new, he rushed to say. It doesn't have a proper name. It does, but it would be weird to say it. How did you notice? Naruto finishes with a smaller voice than he wanted. Naruto was brash and loud, but right now he was only feeling timid and oh so awkward and wrong-footed. People aren't supposed to notice. It's kind of the whole point. Naruto had no idea what to do. Kankuro's face does something weird, and he avoids his eyes, glaring at each side. Your shirt. What? Naruto glances down at himself, on his Naruto black shirt like always, and sees it. Ah. It's not obvious. It's not clear at all, or as prevalent as his older Auric form, but it looks like what Ino and Sakura-chan and pretty much every girl in his class had at some point during the last years. Small triangle lumps on his chest, bigger than before he started traveling. The form is clear as a girl's breasts starting to grow in, and now that he was paying attention, it did seem very marked. It is, well, it's there, and you can notice it in certain angles, he guesses. It is very similar to the girls of the academy, and he does remember the whispers between the girls or the blushing between the boys, and to Naruto it never seemed anything much, just chest, well, a girl's chest, but still, he clearly remembers how civilian-born girls ended up days very embarrassed and almost not quite running back home, and the next day, clearly, with some top or bra under their shirts. Naruto was feeling very close to what he thought those girls felt in those days right now. He also was kind of mad at himself for feeling, because it's not like he can see anything. It's just a very blurry outline of a possible shape. You can't really see it, but he feels like his fly is open and everyone can see his kids' briefs or something like that. It's not. Kankuro starts again, moving his glare back to Naruto's eyes, his face doing something weird, but with determination despite himself now. It's not much really, it's just reminded me of Tamari when she was... It's not like I was staring at your chest or anything, he insisted, still looking straight into Naruto's eyes. And oh, this was weird as well. People don't stare at him like that. You could probably ask her if you needed, he says with finality in his voice, probably ready to stop talking for the rest of the night, and ready to glare at nothing very much again, which makes Naruto take a breath, because he didn't know. It was intense. All the Suna siblings were very intense, you know, and the people didn't notice stuff with Naruto. Don't look right at him, because they didn't look right at him or stare into his eyes, glaring or not. Well, at least Naruto wasn't as uncomfortable with the chest thing anymore. But still, the group stayed in silence for very tense and even awkwarder seconds, when Kankuro suddenly started to glare at people again instead of the wall, this time at Erasen instead, you know, he or Gaara, and that was even weirder. Sorry for the wait, Tamari said, coming back in the possible official dining palace. Midway, I noticed Uzumaki-kun and Jiraiya-san probably are not used to Suna cuisine and decided that the best would be to bring some variety. So, we have kushers, which is deep-fried dumplings with meat and some vegetables, batsai shul, steamed dumplings and soup, since it is going to be a cold night, banstai, or suvin, if you prefer noodles over dumplings, and some bin. Gaara, I brought you some kormog as well, and some fresh erag for Jiraiya. Tamari had an assistant with her bringing things, but she delivered personally Gaara's dish before going to sit down beside Kankuro and the assistants put a bunch of small portions on other 2 tables occupied and left right away. Naruto was pretty lost with all the names, but he could figure out enough from the look of things, he believed, and dumplings are dumplings, as meat is meat, and there is some bread-looking thing and some stir-fry things, and he was hungry, after eating only dried meat for days and the most tasteless rations. "Thank you so much, Tamari-san," Jiraiya said, accepting what Naruto was pretty sure was a wine thing, even if he was the only one with a drink in hand. The meal was also awkward, and Kankura and Tamari did a weird stare thing at Naruto, seeming that Naruto sees people do sometimes that always leads to some discussion, leads to some decision, even without saying anything. Gaara was very tense while eating, and Kankura and Tamari stayed close together, but also felt uncomfortable, and Naruto was feeling too seen for once, too loud and attracting attention, and changes the weird air. Naruto decides that it doesn't matter. He was here to see Gaara, and tomorrow he would spend all day together, and Gaara would show off more of Suna to Naruto, and they would have a good time without all that awkwardness. Believe it. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the first part of the second part of the series of It's Those People Problems, that's something to consider. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!